All right, how's everybody doing? Welcome to, geez, what is it already? Tuesday. It feels like it's like Friday already. Oh my God, what a week. What a week. What a week. Hopefully everybody's staying safe, everybody's staying healthy, everybody's staying socially distanced, everybody's wearing a mask so we can get out of this pandemic. Of course, I'm Mike Jeffers, Chicago Jazz Magazine, chicagojazz.com, and you are watching Chicago Music Revealed, episode 78, right here on Tuesday in the beautiful city of Chicago. And I'm also the Director of Programming and Entertainment at the soon-to-be opening Epiphany Center for the Arts, 201 South Ashland Avenue, right here in the West Loop of Chicago, a 42,000 square foot event space and performance venues, 3 performance venues specifically. And we're going to be announcing an entire lineup of live music starting next week. I think we're going to start announcing it. We're going to roll it out in September, so stay tuned for all of that. Of course, all the information at epiphanyshy.com. So, hopefully everybody's doing well, and without, I don't want to ramble on as sometimes I do at the beginning of this show because nobody wants to hear me. I have a very special guest today, and we are going to be talking about a very special project that he put out. I love this. I mean, the music is incredible. There's so many layers to it. I have got Michael Olatuja on, and I'm probably totally mispronouncing your name, Michael, but I'm a drummer. You're a bassist, so we have to get along.
Go rhythm section.
That's right. That's right. So how are you? I'm so glad you're on. You've got this new recording, Lagos Pepper Soup. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
That's right, Lagos Pepper Soup.
Lagos,
yes,
Lagos Pepper Soup. And from reading up on it, it's actually a cuisine. It's a dish. It's a dish from West Africa. Am I reading? Is that correct?
Yes, they have it in West Africa. They have it in different countries. I grew up with the Nigerian Lagos Pepper Soup.
All right, so before we get into the entire recording, what's in Lagos Pepper Soup, just so we can get that out of the way right off the bat, and then we can talk about this incredible recording.
Well, the question is, what isn't in Lagos Pepper Soup? Because you can do fish Lagos Pepper Soup. You can do stuff with beef. Of course, you got spices. I mean, it just varies. Of course, you have pepper. People cook it differently.
It's interesting, though. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad I actually asked that question because listening to this recording, first of all, now it makes sense because what's in Lagos Pepper Soup? What's in Lagos Pepper Soup? The recording, I mean, you've got like an all-star cast performing with you, in addition to the fact that you also have a string orchestra on some of the tracks. There's so many twists and turns, so many layers, so many textures on this recording. And of course, the rhythms on this recording, obviously, it's West African, Afro-Cuban, and it's also jazz-based stuff. So, all of this mixed together, you've got 12 tracks on this. Let's start from the beginning. I mean, is this music that you've been playing in different settings for years and you decided to put it all together and bring on I read about some of these people are like really, almost like your extended family in some senses, and then a lot of people that you perform with in general. So tell me a little bit about how you put the concept together about this recording and where some of these tunes came from.
Well, in terms of the concept and the beginning, basically the album reflects my journey, my musical journey from Lagos. I was born in London, but my first memories were in Lagos, and then London, and then New York, where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess some people you can say that it's a tale of 3 cities, basically. The 3 cities that I've spent my life living in, and the musical things that I've picked up in each city. So that's one way of describing how it began.
So talk a little bit about the music, because I'm always curious with somebody like you. I mean, you've performed with hundreds of people, and you're on tons of recordings. This is your 3rd recording, I believe, if I'm looking at that correctly, as a leader. But this one, I mean, are these all like, talk a little bit about the tunes? There's original tunes on here. I mean, conceptually, how did you put all of these songs together? How did you come up with the repertoire for a recording like this?
Well, I would say, this is my 3rd album. From the first, if we go back to London, my first album was called Speak. It was released in 2009. Now, with that particular album, my heritage is Nigerian, but I
Mm-hmm.
also lived in London and I studied jazz. I did my undergraduate degree in jazz at Middlesex University. And I also ended up playing with a bunch of jazz greats in the UK. So when it was time to record my first album, the idea then was to merge African rhythms, to be more specific, Nigerian rhythms like woro. That's their version
Mm.
of 6/8, like high life, like juju.
Mm-hmm.
Juju is a famous guy that plays juju is the King Saniade, and then Afrobeat. So with the first album that I made, I guess that was where the experimentation or the exploration started, mixing my native kind of music and rhythms with jazz. And so what happened is that the first album happened, the second album happened, which was called The Promise, which took that concept further. And then and then Lagos Pepper Soup happened, which was the most recent. So in a way, it was just a growth. There's a through line between the first album and the most current album.
Do you enjoy the process of being a leader and recording and putting your own music down? I mean, is that a process that you enjoy? Is it, because some people, I mean, they feel like they love playing on other people's recordings and playing their music and supporting them. Some people are just, that's the way they like to be. But I mean, I'm listening to yours, and man, you're throwing down. First of all, I love it. I mean, the
Thank
bass
you, thank
solos
you.
and the grooves and everything. I mean, I can tell you like playing out in front, and it's really, I mean, it's outstanding musicianship all the way around. So is this something that you just enjoy? It's like, you know what, it's time for me to put out another recording. I'm going to plan it out and I'm going to get this together. Or did it organically just happen? You just had all of these different ideas and you're like, I need to go put this down somewhere. How am I going to get this together, and let's put this thing out?
Well, let me just say, it, it, it's a lot of hard work, as any leader or recording artist will tell you. To put a project together from concept to completion is seriously a lot of work, and it takes years depending on what the goal is and what direction you're going in. So one is a lot of hard work, but two, there is an enjoyment process. I feel like I'm very fortunate, blessed or lucky, whichever way you put it, because I have some amazing friends that I will call my musical family. And so each time I record a recording, I kind of surround myself with people I already have relationships with, people that we have a connection, we have chemistry on and off stage. So when it's time to record, what the music you're hearing is an extension of that. We play in each other's bands, we've been on tour, So in that sense, I enjoy, especially with working with what I call my musical family.
That's gotta. I mean, looking over the people. Let's talk a little bit about who's on here. I mean, Regina Carter, Lionel Luke, Joe Lovano, Becca Becca Stevens, Diana Reeves. I mean, the list goes on. Um, how did you get everybody's schedule together to get everybody to record with you? I mean, I'm looking at this. I'm like, man, oh man, just the thought process. I'm trying to get people together to do a recording and trying to work through their schedules, let alone yours. That's a major process to begin with as well.
Hmm. Well, let's put it this way. When I started recording this particular album, Lagos Pepper Soup, in August 2015, I started with a core team. The core
Mm-hmm.
team that I had in the studio was Lionel Luke, Joe Lovano, Aaron Parks, Terry Gully on drums, a guy called Samir Zarif, and a wonderful lady singer called Camille Thurman. So I went in there with a bunch of songs, more than I needed, and just a core team that I figured, what, it would be nice to see what happens after a few days with us in the studio. And so I say that to say that it was never my intention to record an epic all-star album with all these greats on it. However, as time progressed, as the years went on, I started working with different people. I started working more on Broadway. I did The Color Purple on Broadway, which won a Grammy and a Tony.
Yeah,
I ended
yeah.
up on Frozen on Broadway, which also opened up so many doors. So what I'm trying to say is, as the years went on, I started meeting people, building relationships, and like for instance, Angelique. I ended up playing in her band for about 2 years, and then I asked her, are you interested? And she said yes. So it wasn't my original plan to have an epic record with so many guests, but that just happened as time went by. I mean, it took 5 years to record.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I mean, and the recording that you've got a killer music video that accompanies this recording too. I think it's on the title track, right? Legos Pepper Soup. Is that the title
Yes,
track?
Lagos Pepper
And
Soup.
that's Angelique
Yeah,
Kijo. Is that who's on there
yeah,
with you? And man, I mean,
yes.
that's a really well done music video. I mean, all around the entire process, the entire plan about putting this recording out, really top notch. But I love that video. So let's talk about that one specifically. I mean, there's lyrics
Hmm.
on there. There's all of that. Who wrote the lyrics? Who put together the music? I mean, was that all you, or did you, when you invited everybody to join you, was there a collaboration happening?
Okay, so let's go back a bit before we talk about the video.
Yep.
You're talking about getting all these people together. Um, so yes, that happened over 5 years. So it was one of those things that happened step by step, one
Yep.
foot in front of the other. Um, in terms of getting people together, I also think there's an element of I would say divine favor, because so many things had to fall into place, so many schedules had to fall into place, so many people had to be in town the same time I was recording.
Yeah.
So there was, I just felt like so many things came together that 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 often I would just kind of stand back and it felt like it was just happening. So that's what I would say about that. As far as the video is concerned, um, I had finished mixing the album, and me, the record label, the team, and everybody. I've got a wonderful team, by the way. We decided on a release date, and then I said to myself, see, a lot of these things start with a question in my mind. I said, what would it be like if we had a music video for one of the songs, maybe even the title track?
Yeah.
And so in that particular instance, I I kind of started that putting feelers out. I sent messages to some of my friends. I knew I'd need a director, a choreographer, and the question is, what's in the video? That's the thing.
Right.
And so in the end, I decided that I wanted, of course, myself in the video because I'd never made a music video that I was the main artist. I've done many for others, but none for myself. I wanted some Afrobeat dancing, and I wanted Angelique to be in it. And so the concept was Afrofuturism. When we talk about Afrofuturism, we're thinking about Black Panther.
Oh yeah.
We're thinking about a kind of Pan-African kind of look. But here and now, looking into the future. And so I enlisted the help of two very important people: a director called RZ Scott. He's an amazing. He makes loads of music videos. He's a professional music video maker, and then a great choreographer and dancer called Laurie M. Taylor. And so those were, I would say, they were like my right hand and left hand. We kind of communicated, and once you have a good team and they understand the vision, I guess things just flow because people just kind of take care of their departments and check in, and we're all talking, and before you know it, it was time to record a video. Angelique said yes, and I guess that's what you see.
I was really, I wasn't shocked, but I mean, I get a lot of things like jazz and blues and Latin and things like that. And maybe it's a music video. It's always just the band playing or something else. This was really well done. And there's dancers and there's costumes. And I mean, but it accentuates what the music is, which I love. It really made sense
Mm,
to what the
mm,
music
mm,
is, which is not always the case when you see a music video. Especially, I mean, you've been in music
mm.
videos where maybe it doesn't accentuate what the music is specifically. This really did a great job, and it was really fun to watch. So I'm glad you put this together. Let's talk about a couple other
Thank you.
people on this recording. Talk a little bit about Lionel Luke. Now, he's somebody that you call in some of the notes kind of like your extended family, right? Because so you have you played with Lionel? Have you toured with him, or do you just know him from the scene and you've gotten to know him over the years, or how's that relationship?
Oh, Lino is like my big brother. I mean, we've been around the world together.
Yeah.
I would say around 2012, he asked me to join his band. He just recorded an album on Blue Note called Heritage, and he was about to tour. I guess Europe, America, just all over really. We went to Japan, we went everywhere. And so he asked me to join, and I said yes. And so just Lionel's from Benin, next door to Nigeria. I'm from Lagos. His mum speaks Yoruba. I mean, we have so many things in common. I mean, when he comes into town, we always get some pepper soup at the famous Brooklyn Nigerian place. So Lionel, at this stage, Lionel is basically my big brother. He means so much to me personally, and he means so much to me professionally. I mean, that's my dude.
Yeah.
So that's how that happened. We started touring, and then we grew close.
So
So it was only natural to
yeah.
ask him.
No, I love him, man. And then when I saw he was on here and the couple tracks he's on, I mean, it's awesome stuff. So let's talk a little bit about. All right. So I'm a drummer. We talked a little bit before we came on. I cannot do the rhythms that you have on this recording justice. So let's talk a little bit about, as a rhythm player, as a rhythm section player, and finding the right people to play this type of music with, because there's so much goes into the feel and understanding the musicality of what's happening in these songs, and especially with these
Yeah.
different styles and the different time signatures. It has to be totally natural. How difficult is it for you to connect with the people that were right for this recording? I'm assuming you probably played with everybody that in the rhythm section, especially many
Yes.
times,
Yes.
in order for this to feel so natural. But I mean, talk a little bit about the styles that are on this recording, and some of the different feels, and some of the, I mean, a lot of this stuff is very, and people will listen to it. You guys make it seem so simple to play, but when you really delve in and you start breaking it down as a musician, it's on another level to make this stuff feel so natural and to be able to be so creative over such complicated rhythms and feels.
All right. So if we're talking about the style, and then we'll break that
Yeah,
down
I
as
know.
you mentioned.
I know. I just told
Um,
you like 12 questions. I know.
it's all good. It's all good. This is like, I'm glad you've checked out the music, and you clearly enjoyed it. Um, well, I talked to you about. I mentioned that the album is an extension of my journey.
Yeah.
Lagos, London, and New York. One of the reasons why the New York chapter of my story is very important, because it was in New York that I started working on Broadway. I did Motown on Broadway. I did The Color Purple on Broadway, the revival, and most recently I did Frozen, Disney's Frozen.
Yeah.
And so the reason why I say this, because it was at Frozen that I met an amazing orchestrator. His name is David Metzger, and he's like Disney's top orchestrator. He does a bunch of Disney films. Man, he's done like things like The Simpsons, Avenger, Frozen 1, Frozen 2, Moana. So he's basically like when you hear orchestra on Disney films, it's probably David Metzger. So what happened was that I finished recording the rhythm section, and actually I was playing with the orchestra every day.
Yeah.
So the question was, I'm playing this stuff for Disney on Broadway. What would happen if I could just somehow get this kind of orchestra sound on my recording? And so when you talk about the style and the sound of the album, I asked David Metzger. I said, David, are you interested in orchestrating the song? He said yes. I asked another guy who his name is Joseph Joubert. He's like one of Broadway's top orchestrators and conductors. He actually conducted all the orchestra songs on the videos and on the whole album. So he orchestrated and conducted, and I asked some other people. So mixing the Afro beat and then the kind of movie score sound.
Yeah.
In a limited this whole thing that I call cinematic Afrobeat. So when I think of the music, I think I think of Afrobeat that was created for the movies. So if you want to look at a grand kind of way to look at it, that's how I look at it. And in terms of styles, in a more individual styles, I deliberately wanted to do Wara. Okay, so Wara is what we call is 6/8 in the 6/8 rhythm.
Okay.
A bunch of African countries have their own. Mali has their own. Senegal has their own. Benin has their own. Cameroon has their own. And so when you think of a song like Shoki, I kind of deliberately decided to mix different kinds of 6/8. So you've got that Cameroon feel, you've got that kind of Nigerian feel, you've got the Malian vibe going on, and then so you've got different types of 6/8. you've got influences, yeah, from Mali, and then you have the kind of orchestra on top, and so Shoki is a very good example of kind of blending the whole the whole sounds. In terms of selecting musicians, um, honestly, I've already played with them. I've already in different ensembles. I already know that they're open. See, I say one of the things I like to do is get musicians that are open to trying different styles
Yeah.
and different ways of playing. Musicians that will study the parts, that I give them, whether it be
Yeah.
sheet music or demo, but also bring their personality. So it's like a give and take. You write the music, but then you get people that you entrust people to interpret it in a way that will serve the song.
Mm-hmm.
So in that how I select the musicians, I've already played with them, and I've heard them in recordings. If I haven't played with them extensively, and I kind of know that they're open to creating this cinematic Afro beat.
I love that term, cinematic Afro beats. That's exactly what the recording sounds like. It's like that's a great way to describe it, because that's exactly that's exactly what I'm hearing when I'm hearing this stuff. So you recorded it over 5 years.
Yes, yes.
How much music didn't make it on the recording? Because you got 12 tracks, but I know that if you recorded it over 5 years, you probably had maybe a couple of extra tracks or a few more tracks or something. I mean, how do you even decide which tunes make the recording, or which tunes maybe get held off and don't make the recording? Or maybe you just did 12 tunes and that was it. I don't know.
Well, actually, I would say at least three songs didn't make the album.
Okay.
At least three songs didn't make the album. Well, as a producer, because that's the thing, and well, one reason why it took quite a while is because I was wearing different hats. As a bass player, arranging the music and then producing the whole thing. So, I kind of have to, yeah, wear different hats, and it's almost like you're a different person. And so it takes time for when you're the artist and you're the producer and so on and so forth. In terms of selecting the songs for an album, I had to really sit down and think about, one, what is it that I want to say with this album, both lyrically and musically. Lyrically, we have themes of hope, inspiration, new beginnings, love. These were the things that overcoming. These are things that I wanted to convey, and you notice that whether in Yoruba is the language that we speak, one of the languages we speak in Nigeria, or English, you will notice that these themes are echoed throughout the album. Musically, of what I wanted to say, I'll give you an example. In my previous albums, I I really focused on playing the bass. Sorry. I really focused on arranging and producing and
Mm-hmm.
composing. But with this particular album, I said to myself, you know what? I really want to, bring the bass to the forefront a bit more. I really want to be more aggressive. I want to be more present.
Yeah.
Since I'm a bass player, why not play the bass, a bit more? I mean, of course, I'm gonna do it in a way that I feel like serves the song. Pick my moments.
Yeah.
If Lionel is doing something, a riff, I want to stay out of his way. If Terry on is doing a riff, I'm going to stay out of his way, but then maybe find a way to complement it. So those were the things that were on my mind.
It's got to be really tough too, because I talk to a lot of musicians, especially somebody like yourself who's done so much, who's so accomplished, and have done the recordings, obviously done Broadway and everything else. But when you get into like you're running your own album, you're performing, you're producing, and you're also composing and you're writing and arranging everything. When you go into record, I'm always curious. I ask this a lot, but I think it's interesting. When you go into record, you sort of talk to that, but I want you to maybe expand a little. You have to probably go in and say, all right, now I'm playing the bass. I am not the arranger and composer. I'm actually going to relax and I'm going to play the bass over this. I'm going to forget about all the other stuff that's happening, that's going on around this recording right now, because it's my turn to play the bass. Do you have to split your brain that way and just say, all right, now I'm going in the studio. Now I'm playing. I'm not producing. I'm not recording. I'm not worried about somebody's hotel room. This is what's happening.
Well, it's interesting that you should say that because wearing different hats. When I go into the record, um, it's I'm not actually thinking about playing the bass.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about capturing everybody else's take. Seriously. I'm thinking of because for each take, for each song, we might do a couple of takes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm. It doesn't take the take doesn't have to be perfect, but I want to capture the take that's got the spirit
Yeah.
of what I'm looking for. And then once we have that spirit of that main take, then we can do fixes, then we can do overdubs, then we can kind of build on it. So it's up to it's actually the opposite. It's very hard, especially when it's my own uh, project as producer and leader, to be thinking about the bass whilst I'm recording with a band. Now after, then when I'm in the studio or something, I'm fixing something, then I'm the bass player. Then I can fully enjoy the bass player because then I'm thinking of direction. Okay, if this take didn't go well, how can we change the drum beat? What do we need to change in the piano? What do I want to hear more or less of? Is the song too fast or too slow? Is it going to be the right key for the singer? There's so
Yeah.
many things to think about. It's usually the bass comes last.
I love that though, because that's opposite of some of the other musicians. But you brought up a great point, is that you're playing, and you've got to find. You're right, because everybody's there. You're playing the tune down. You can always go back in and adjust and go in as the bass player. To your point, but you gotta know that you heard the version that has the spirit of the composition and the energy and the creativity that you're looking for, so that you can say, okay, got it. Now I can go back in and do some overdubs and do some different things. That's actually almost more difficult, isn't it? Because I mean, how do you know that you really got the most creative part or the most energetic or the spirit behind that tune when you're sitting there? You must know how to listen in that fashion to understand and say, that's exactly it. We got it. And then you must also be able to break down in your mind what you can do afterwards in order to enhance whatever you want to enhance. But getting that one take is so important, to your point.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the feel. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the the vibe. I'm thinking of like, how does this take make me feel? What's the energy like? What's the arc?
Mm-hmm.
And once that see, okay, let me go back. Usually I'm in the recording studio with the rest of the musicians. Like so when I produce, I'm not in the recording booth or the control room. I'm in
Yeah.
there with the rest of the musicians because I feel like that helps to create a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of helps. You can see people better. You can kind of even MD better in that studio. Now hold on, someone just my next door neighbor
Oh.
my next door neighbor was making noise, and so I'm in there with the musician making the music, and then it's after we all come in, and then listen to the take, and you can just usually tell when you're in the control room listening with the rest of the musicians
Yeah.
which one is the one, and it's usually the one that everybody says yes, keep that take of mine,
Yeah. Right.
keep that solo of mine. Okay, the drummer's happy, I'm happy. You can generally sense it.
Yeah.
And then that's the one we choose.
All right. Well, hey, I want to make sure everybody knows. We want to send everybody over to your website. We want to send everybody over to Michael Olatuja music.com, which I have up at the bottom of the screen. And of course, what record label is it on? Is it on Whirlwind?
It's on Whirlwind Recordings.
Whirlwind Recordings.
And you can also find me on Instagram in Michael Olatuja, one word, and Twitter. I'm all over.
You're all over the place. So let's talk a little bit about your background, because I'm curious. We've been talking about you doing the Broadway plays and stuff. Now, did you grow up in Nigeria and then go to London and then end up in the States, or how did that trajectory go? And when did you get interested in bass specifically?
All right. So born in London, went to live in Nigeria when I was 4. And that was important because I don't remember anything before that. All I remember is getting off the plane
Oh, wow.
in Nigeria. I think it was a heat. I think it was a culture shock. But that's all I remember, just getting off the plane in Nigeria. So we spent 4 years there as a family, and then moved back to London with my mother, and then spent, I guess, 8 until 21 in London,
Mm-hmm.
with my mother. And I guess if we talk about when did I start playing the bass, I started playing the bass at the age of 13. Um, the bass player at my church left, and I was his understudy. And so I guess I was the next one in line, and so I started playing the bass. So I always say that I didn't choose the bass, but the bass chose me. Because it just kind of opened up, and I feel like I was at the right place at the right time. So 13 is when I started to play the bass.
Wow, man, oh man. And did you? Who were some of your early influences? Because I can hear a lot, obviously, Jocko, but who else? I mean, you there's so many different bass players that I'm sure you were influenced by.
Well, in my teens, Abraham Laborio was very, very, very important. Because he. I always gravitated to bass players that had a strong rhythmic sensibility.
Mm-hmm.
So Abraham Laborio, I learned a lot from him. I learned I would transcribe people like John Patitucci,
Sure.
people like him. And actually it was because of John Patitucci that I started playing both upright and electric. I used to always play a 6-string bass like him. And then Richard Bonner. Richard Bonner is very important. And Richard Bonner, I would say he's important because he was the first one I saw mix jazz with his native kind of music from Cameroon.
Oh yeah.
And he was singing his own language. And you know what? You wouldn't understand what he was saying, but it is true what they say that music is a universal language. Like he would be singing, and whatever he would be saying, you'd be feeling it, even though you don't understand the language. And so Richard Bonner was very important because he kind of, he kind of influenced me to see that it's possible to make music in your own language. You don't have to abandon your culture. No, it's all relevant. You can tell your story using your language, add it to jazz, as long as it's authentic. You're gonna touch someone.
How did you? I'm always curious when I talk to musicians that are, whether they're in Chicago or New York or L.A. and they're in the theater scene. I mean, because I know that's a tough thing to get into as a musician, because everybody wants a theater gig, obviously. So for you to be able to do the Broadway stuff, did you do the usual thing? Well, the usual thing, but I mean the thing that I've heard different musicians do, and I'm always curious to ask this because I think a lot of younger musicians probably need to hear how you got into it. I mean, did you do one of those things where you kind of shadowed somebody as their understudy in case they were going to get sick or something, and then you got into the theater scene that way, and then all of a sudden you got moving, or was there a different path for you to get into that Broadway scene?
Well, speaking of the Broadway scene, one reason why I'm kind of happy about my project is the two people that got me into the Broadway scene are on the project, on the album, and that's the conductor Joseph Joubert. He was the conductor for Motown on Broadway. I think that was 2012, 13, and the associate conductor for that, Jason Michael Webb. He was the one that orchestrated Shoki, the song that Diane Reeves sang on. And so in a nutshell, what happened is that Motown opened on Broadway, and the thing about Broadway is when the show just opens, that's the window if you want to sub for someone, because whoever the regular is has been there for weeks, because they have something called a lock-in period. So for argument's sake, the lock-in period is 6 weeks when they start rehearsing and then they start doing a bunch of shows in the theater. And so by the end of that lock-in period, whoever the bass player is wants people to be able to be his understudy, wants to be able to take a night off, because they actually can't take a night off in that lock-in period. So what happened is that Motown just opened, and Jason Michael Webb, the guy that orchestrated Shoki, he connected me with a bass player, one of my mentors called Luiko Hopper, and I ended up being his understudy, and he taught me how to do Broadway. I still use his methods today, the things that he taught me. And why that's very important is that my mentor on bass, he decided to go off and do something else, and then gave me his chair. So for the first show that I subbed for on Broadway, the first show I subbed for was the first show that actually became a regular for, and that was Motown on Broadway. So that's how I got into Broadway. And I guess people see that you're on Broadway, they start calling you for different things, and one thing really does lead to another.
It's and I'm glad you told that story, because I find it fascinating. I know a lot of people that are listening find it fascinating, because that's one of those things that people, just don't know how people get some of these gigs, and I think it's always interesting. But you brought up, and we don't have time or anything else to go into it, but there is a technique to being able to play on Broadway and to be able to understand how to play these shows. Even if you're playing night in, night out, there's a definite technique and a definite style and a different way you have to go about playing a Broadway show that's different from playing gigs in a club or playing festivals with bands or anything else,
Oh,
isn't it?
definitely, definitely, definitely.
Everything has to
But,
be
but, but,
totally specific, right? I mean, you got to be the same way every
well,
single night.
yes, the music is written out. I'll use Frozen as an example. I was very fortunate doing the Frozen Broadway show for Disney as the bass player, because the page was written out and everything was already there. Frozen the movie one had already come out. And they've got their hits. So people want to hear that.
Yeah.
However, I was very fortunate that all of my supervisors, trusted me to play the ink, but also encouraged me to bring my own personality into the
Oh,
music. So to be able to do Broadway and actually insert your own personality and serve the song and have people want more, that was very, very, very special, especially on Frozen. I mean, they even gave me like a solo. They gave me a bass solo. So they kept saying, so they said they wanted more. I gave them more, and no one ever complained.
and that's pretty. I mean,
So I mean,
that's pretty rare,
that's
isn't
not
it?
that
I mean, that's pretty
is very
rare.
rare.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate, but they trusted me to pick my moments, and of course, I'm listening to what's going on.
Yeah.
If they want to build the song, then I build it with them. If it's like a quiet, intimate moment, then I kind of know what to do to kind of help them tell that narrative.
Wow, man, oh man. So just to wrap the whole thing up, we want to send everybody over to Michael Olatuja music.com to pick up the new recording, Legos Pepper Soup. And I'm telling you,
Woo!
there it is. There it is. You are not going to be
There's a CD.
disappointed, man.
Here's a vinyl.
Oh man,
Just
vinyl.
came
We got
in.
vinyl.
It literally just came in, so I'm very excited.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. But before we wrap the whole thing up, how have you been doing with this COVID thing? Obviously, the theaters are shut down, the clubs are shut down, and I'm sure if you're not doing theaters and you're not playing gigs in clubs and venues, especially in the summer during normal times, you're probably on tour somewhere, I would imagine, traveling and playing festivals and everywhere else. Everything's kind of hunkered down. What have you been up to? Have you been doing some live stream things? Have you been doing anything like that? I mean, I don't know what's happening out there in New York.
Well, let me just say, it's a very tough and trying time. Frozen closed a few months ago. Like closed for good because of COVID-19. The touring I did with Angelique. A lot of it got postponed to 2021. Some of my own gigs as a leader got cancelled. So it's a very tough time for all of us musicians, artists, in fact, the whole world, to be honest. Um, but I keep on saying to myself that as long as we're healthy and we try to stay safe as best as possible, everything else you can work out.
Yeah.
We know that musicians aren't making what they usually make. But once again, hopefully they'll find the vaccine, and in 2021 we'll come back with a roar. So I'm choosing to remain optimistic, even though we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, I mean,
And in
that's
terms
the
of
only thing you
go
can
on,
do, right? That's the only thing you can do is stay
that's the only thing we can
optimistic
do.
and look forward and push forward, right?
Because we still have to. Part of me sometimes says, "Oh, I wish we could just fast forward to 2022." But who can go forward in time? That I know. So we're gonna have to live through each day. So it just makes sense that if we get it just makes sense to take things day by day, and just literally try to make the most of each day. Try to stay creative. Talk to your family. Like I'm always. My brother lives in London, so every day, almost every day, I'm on the phone with him. So these are the things that I feel like have been helping me
Yeah.
get through day by day.
Well, and congratulations to you and of course Lydia Liebman helping you out get this word out about this recording and putting this out regardless of whether or not there's a pandemic or not or anything else. This is out. You got vinyl coming, you got CDs. You're pushing this thing out and people need to hear creative stuff. And I always say everything, if there's a silver lining on all of this, because of the digital world we live in, I think a lot of musicians, I don't know how you are, but I know a lot of musicians are figuring out different ways to connect with their fans, their audience, and maybe even make new fans and new audiences. So when they get
Mm.
back out on the stage, there's even a growing population of people that really love the music because of the digital aspect of it, all the social and everything else that people can do. I can't tell you how many musicians I've run into just flipping through Instagram or Facebook or something like that I had never heard of before. And it's fantastic stuff. So, I mean, I don't know how you are, but I think a lot of, if there's a silver lining, that might be the silver lining, that we're a little bit more connected digitally and we're able to grow the audiences so that when we can get back out and you can get back out on the stages, you're connecting with even more people.
That's the hope. That's definitely the hope.
Yeah. Well, hey, Michael, it is so wonderful to connect with you. I'm so happy that we got a chance to talk, and everybody head over to michaelolatujamusic.com and pick up the new recording. Congratulations. And hopefully, as I always say, by the way, I read in your bio, you performed with one of our local legends here, Kurt Elling, I think. I saw in your,
that's
your bio.
correct.
Did you tour with him or did you record with him or?
Oh man, Kurt is my friend. We toured. It had to be 2009.
Okay.
It had to be 2009. He called me and we did some stuff in the Midwest. Yeah, it was nice. He emailed me a couple of weeks ago. It was asking me questions about the new album Lagos Pepper Soup.
Yeah.
And I emailed him back. But yeah, I've loved Kurt Elling's voice for years. So when he asked me to tour with him, I said it was an honor.
I saw that. And I'm like, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Kurt Elling on a Chicago Music Revealed show. You know how that is. All right, Michael. Hey, take care. Man. Congratulations on the new recording, and hopefully we'll get to see you live and in person here in Chicago in 2021, rather than.
That would be awesome. I would love to connect with you. Maybe we can do lunch or something.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen. All right. Congratulations, and thanks again for jumping on.
You're welcome.
Take care. All right. I'll tell you, you've got to go check this out because this recording is just, it's dynamite what this is. And the different rhythm, of course, I'm a drummer. Everybody knows I'm a drummer. Everybody knows that, the kind of stuff that I dig. And so this is like so right up my alley. It's not even funny. So I cannot tell people enough that they need to go check this out. Head over there, michaelolatujamusic.com. And, what a wonderful guy too. And I'll tell you, we could have talked probably for an hour and a half because I had a lot of questions about the Broadway thing because that's so specific to be able to do that. And the fact that he's on all of these hit Broadway shows, it's amazing. It's amazing. So check out the music though. You're not going to be disappointed. Sit back, relax, grab a cocktail, dim the lights, and listen to the whole album because it's smoking. It might make you dance, so you might not be able to sit back and relax. You might have to get up and move a little bit. But congratulations to Michael on the whole thing. And, of course, thanks to Lydia Liebman for connecting us. She has connected us with so many great people, and we are going to continue doing that again tomorrow here on the show. Of course, we are back here tomorrow, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Oh, no, I think we've got a scheduling thing. 6:15 tomorrow night, 6:15 tomorrow. I've got to figure out the schedule for the entire week. We're going to announce all of that. I always say that, and then we drop the different interviews. So it's always a potluck here. So episode 79, stick around, get ready tomorrow at 6 p.m. As I always say, I thank you for everybody listening, everybody watching. Please share this. Please like this. Please tell a friend, tell a neighbor, call your grandkids. Chicago Music Revealed every day, 6 p.m., except for tomorrow at 6:15, Central Standard Time. Always a pleasure. I am Mike Jeffers signing off, and stay safe, stay healthy, and until the next broadcast, I will see you somewhere.